Terry Tucker is a former SWAT negotiator, cancer warrior, and author who's turning pain into purpose by helping others lead extraordinary lives, even in the face of death. This episode of the Rebel Rebel is brought to you by my book, Brand Jitsu. I've spent over 25 years in the trenches helping artists, entrepreneurs, and brands stop being ignored. I took everything I've learned, the wins, the hard lessons, the frameworks that actually work, and I put it into one book. It's called Brand Jitsu, Move Your Brand from Meh to Memorable, and it'll help you tell your story in a way that people actually remember. Get it at your favorite bookstore or visit brandjitsu.com. Welcome to the Rebel Rebel. I'm your host, Michael Dargie, and somewhere across the world, we don't know where, Terry Tucker is hanging out. Terry, where the hell are you? Let's just start there.
Sure. Well, first, let me say thank you, Michael, for having me on. I'm looking forward to this today. I am in Denver, Colorado, so in the Rocky Mountains.
Now, I am also in the Rockies. I love that. Okay. And what are you doing right now, Terry? Like, what does your world look like on the day-to-day in Terry Tucker's life?
Unfortunately, there's no really good day-to-day. I'm a cancer. I call myself a cancer warrior. I've been dealing with literally terminal cancer for the last 13 years. And I know your audience is probably going to be like, well, how come you're not dead yet? And I've asked that question many times during this 13-year journey. But I have tumors in my lungs now. I am treated every 3 weeks at the hospital for those tumors for an entire week. So I'm really kind of, as my wife describes it, off the air during that week. Yeah. And then I get 2 weeks off. And I needed something to be purposeful in my life other than battling cancer. And so I spend those 2 weeks being on podcasts with nice people like you, writing my blog. I'm writing a second book now and things like that. So I'm trying to take some of this misery and find meaning in it. So that's kind of what my day-to-day outlook is.
Holy shit. Well, I mean, but okay, so so many things to unpack there. How do you deal with this idea of like cancer every 3 weeks? Like, because I mean, I assume that like for a week you're like dealing with cancer, and then 2 weeks you like etch a sketch, and you don't think about it, right? Like, how do you manage that on the year to year basis? And thank God for the year to year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've made peace with dying a long time ago, so that I don't really spend a whole lot of time worrying about the dying part. I try to spend most of my life focusing on the living and the purposeful living, and so what gets me through this is literally when I call my 3 F's, which in order are my faith, my family, and my friends. And that's so important to me. And you and I were talking, before we kicked this off about those connections, with people and things like that, and how important those are. And to me, they're incredibly important. I was reading an article about a psychology professor at the University of Chicago, who does this experiment with his students. And the idea is you go out, you get on a bus, and in 3 questions, you're deep with somebody. So you sit down next to somebody, hey, how you doing? I'm fine, how are you? Question 1. Question 2, and I'm just making this up. What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a doctor. Okay. Question 3, have you always wanted to be a doctor?
Oh my God.
No, I grew up on a farm. I wanted to be a veterinarian, but A, B, and C happened. Or, you know what? My mom was a doctor and she died at 40 and I'm honoring her memory by following her. Whatever they say, now you're deep with somebody because you're getting them to talk to you about why they do what they do. You're getting them to talk to you about their why, their mission, their purpose in life. And social media lets us stay on the surface. We don't go deep with people. I love going deep with people.
Oh my God. Well, all right. So I have to ask, when was the last time you were on a bus and you asked a stranger 3 questions?
So I haven't been on a bus probably since high school. Okay. My other problem is I had my leg amputated as a result of my cancer journey. So I'm in a wheelchair. But every chance I get when I go to the hospital, I ask my nurses, I ask my medical assistants, I ask my doctors, I ask patients in the waiting room. I want to go deep with them. How you doing today? and you can just tell people's looks, especially patients that are like, deer in headlights. Oh my God, this is my first time here. I'm scared to death. I don't know what's going to happen. Well, I've been here for 6 years now. I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to be fine. These are the greatest people that you're ever going to work with. They're going to care for you. They're going to love you. They're going to take care of you. I said, you're going to be good. And that's, even if that's all I say, it's like, hey, it's time for me to go. I got to go to my treatment. Good luck. I mean, you just feel that connection with another human being. And that is incredibly important to me right
now. Damn it, Terry. You made me feel things.
I hate it when that happens.
Fuck. Like, oh my God. I have again, like, just so many things rush into my mind. Like, you're just so genuine about it, and it doesn't feel like you're putting on a face, a brave face. You were a SWAT hostage negotiator. Do you negotiate with yourself?
Constantly. Yeah. I don't want your audience to think, or you to think that, I don't have bad days. It's not like everything is sunshine and rainbows. It's not. When I go to treatment, and I was to treatment last week, I cry. I get down. I feel sorry for myself. I feel like crap.
Yeah.
But you use that. I do. And my wife would tell you, Sunday nights when I'm getting ready to go to treatment, I will say at some point, I don't want to do this. And she'll look at me and say, I know you don't, but I absolutely 100% know that you will, that you'll be ready at 4:00 tomorrow morning to go to treatment.
Attaboy.
And I will. And I know that. It's just, all right, I got to get the negative out. All right, let's focus on the positive now.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, do I have to go to treatment, or do I get to go to treatment?
Right.
Do I have to, or do I get to? And for me, it's I get to. Because one, I know it's going to be terrible on my body, and I have a terrible reaction to my medication. But I also know I love these nurses, and I've been with them so long that, I've been through the people they've dated, the people they've married, the births that they've given, the divorces that they've been through, their kids going to college. I've been through all that with them.
Oh my God.
And they allow me to be part of their lives. And one of the nurses commented one time, she said, half the nurses here wish you were their father. The other half wish you were their husband. And I was like, man, I think that's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
Hell yeah. Oh my God. What would, okay. So let's say, and sorry for the language, but fuck cancer and put that on the back burner. Fuck it. Like, what is beyond cancer? Talk to me about Terry.
So married for 31 years.
Yeah. Ow.
Got one child, my wife and I, a daughter who's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and is an officer in the new branch of the military, the Space Force.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Time out for 1 sec. And you don't have to say this if you don't want to, but what is your wife's name? What's your daughter's name? You don't have to give too much detail, but
no, my wife's name is Roberta and my daughter's name is Michaela.
Oh my God. Thank you. Because holy hell, that's awesome. Space Force?
Yeah.
What?
She takes after her mother, not me. So it's like
okay. All right. Keep going. Sorry.
Grew up on the south side of Chicago, oldest of 3 boys. You can't tell this from looking at me, but I'm 6'8" tall, and I actually went to college on a basketball scholarship, despite having 3 knee surgeries in high school. All my brothers, it's hilarious. I'm 6'8". I got a brother who's 6'7", who was a pitcher for the University of Notre Dame. Another brother who's 6'6", who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the National Basketball Association. And then my dad was 6'5". So we used to joke that if you sat behind our family in church growing up, not a prayer's chance you're going to see anything that was going on, at the front of the church. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So did that. Graduated from college. First person to graduate in my family from college. Moved home to find a job. Found that first job in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain.
Dave
Thomas. Yeah.
Yep.
In their marketing department, and was lucky enough and old enough to be there when Clara Peller was running around saying, "Where's the beef?"
Shut at the front door.
I don't know if you remember those commercials, but
yes.
After that, I ended up working for the hospital. I mean, the job was the good news. The bad news was I lived with my parents for the next 3.5 years as I helped my mother care for my father and my grandmother, who were both dying of different forms of cancer.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it was what it was. I mean, the good thing about that is I actually went to work for the hospital that cared for my father and my grandmother. And then, as you mentioned, at 37 years old, I became a police officer. And one of the jobs I had was I was a SWAT hostage negotiator. The other job I had, you're going to laugh at this, is I was an undercover narcotics investigator at 6'8". So,
come on.
And then I started a school security consulting business, coached girls high school basketball, and then I got cancer. So that's my life.
Fuck. Okay. Holy hell. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. How on earth, like, what does it look like to become a SWAT hostage negotiator? Because like that just rung to me as a hook I need to chase.
Yeah, usually your next door neighbor is not a hostage negotiator, kind of one of those things. So I did this when I was a police officer in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks like the tactical team in a lot of ways, so SWAT is usually divided into tactical and negotiators. The tactical officers are the men and women who have all the toys, the guns, the armored cars, all that stuff. And the negotiators, we used to joke with them. It's like, if we do our job right, you don't get to use all your little toys and things like that. So, but it's doing a physical fitness. I had to run 1.5 miles. I had to do push-ups and sit-ups. I had to meet with the psychologist. I had to take psychological exams. I had to meet with the command staff. And then I had to meet with the team. And it was an all or nothing. If one person said, hey, I've worked with Terry before, he's difficult to work with, then you didn't get on the team. But fortunately, I hadn't pissed anybody off. So I got the thumbs up from everybody. And that started about a 4.5-year saga as being one of a team, part of a team of hostage negotiators.
Wild. What, like, just because this is where my brain goes. Tell me about your book.
The book is called Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. Never wanted to write a book, never expected to write a book. It's kind of an old joke that says, when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. So God has never spoken to me and said, Terry, you should write a book. But Terry, I think what God did was put enough people in my path that said, Terry, you should write a book. Terry, you should write a book. Terry, you should write a book. And so when I had my leg amputated, that's really when I wrote the book. And it's really a compilation of 2 conversations I had. One is with a former player, as I mentioned, I coached girls high school basketball, who moved to the area in Colorado where my wife and I live with her fiance. And the 4 of us had dinner one night. And I remember saying to her after dinner that I was excited that she was living close and I could watch her find and live her purpose. And Michael, she got real quiet for a while. And then she looked at me and she said, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have absolutely no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Finding the reason you were put on the face of this earth, and there is a reason, using your unique gifts and talents and living that reason. So that was one conversation. And then a young man reached out to me from college on social media, and he said, what do you think are the most important things that I should know, not to just be successful in my job or in business, but to be successful in life? And I didn't want to give him that, get up early, work hard, help. I didn't want to give him sort of the cliches that we all know. So I spent some time and I took some notes and eventually kind of had these 10 thoughts, these 10 ideas, these 10 principles. And so I sent them to him. And then I stepped back and I was like, well, I got a life story that fits underneath that principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates this principle. So like I said, during the 4 to 5 month period where I was healing after I had my leg amputated, I sat down at the computer every day and I built stories, and they're real stories about real people underneath each of the principles. That's how the book came to be.
Damn. All right. Well, put links in the show notes. That's amazing. I feel it needs to be asked. And you can be like, I've already answered this question a whole bunch, but like I've lost a toenail once. I've never lost a limb. How do you deal with that on just a personal basis? And again, if you've already answered this, like, just, you can be like, listen to this episode or whatever, but I'm just curious.
No, that's certainly a valid question. If you look at my life, I've been a physical person my whole life. Played college basketball, was a police officer, was on the SWAT team. And now, I've had my leg amputated above the knee and I'm in a wheelchair. Right. And so how do you balance those? And I think when you can't do what you're good at, you do what's important in life. And I really think what I'm doing is important. And when I had my leg amputated, it was literally right in the middle of COVID. And so the day of the surgery, my wife literally dropped me off at the hospital. She was not allowed to come with me.
Right. Yeah.
Not allowed to have anybody. A nurse puts me in a wheelchair, wheels me back to the pre-op room. And if you've ever had surgery, a pre-op room is this great big room that's divided into, 10, 20, 30 different little bays.
Yeah.
And Michael, I was the only person in that entire pre-op room. There were no other surgeries that day. So the silence was almost deafening. And the funny thing it wasn't funny. It is funny now, but looking back on it, is I was told that you have your leg amputated, you'll be in the hospital for 10 to 14 days to learn how to function without having a leg. Michael, they sent me home after 48 hours. Yeah. They're like, get out of here. It's COVID. It's like, we don't know. We want you home. And we were not ready. We had not set the house up for a wheelchair and a walker and all those kind of things. And
holy shit.
So it was a little daunting at first, but we look back on it now and kind of laugh at it. So.
Fuck. And again, okay. So, that's a monumental life experience. And by all measures, you seem like a normal person, like doing,
you don't know me very well. So.
But, doing normal things, like in a normal way, following your passion. Like, I mean, your story is not dissimilar to a lot of creative rebels I have on the show. But yours is very dissimilar in that you've went through a catastrophic life change. And I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you dig deep enough to find the way to get through that and be still Terry at the end of it?
I honestly, literally do lean on my faith, family, and friends. And I look at it now, and like I said, in 2012, I was told I'd be dead in 2 years. And I thought, well, okay, you gave me a death sentence. Yeah. Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence.
Yeah.
And the way I look at my illness now, my infirmity, my malignancy, is that I feel that God is using me to show people his love, his mercy, his power, his healing, and things like that. Like I said, should have been dead. I mean, even after I had my leg amputated, my doctor showed me my CAT scan. I'm like, I don't have any medical background. I don't know how to read a CAT scan. But you can kind of look at it and be like, well, that sure doesn't look like it belongs there. I had these big tumors in my lungs. In each lung, I had fluid all around the pleural spaces. And I remember looking at him and saying, how was I alive? Wow. Until the day I die, I will never forget this. He put his head down. He shook his head no. And then he looked up at me and he said, I don't know, because you shouldn't have been. Which said to me, God's not done with me yet. When I die, where I die, how I die, way above my pay grade. Don't spend a lot of time worrying about the dying.
I fucking love that. Oh my God, Terry. That's amazing. What do you do for Terry? Like, what is the thing that you do as a guilty pleasure for Terry to be like, I'm going to have Haagen-Dazs ice cream, or like, I'm going to have a corn dog, or like,
I don't do any of that stuff because it's not good for my cancer. It's not good for my body.
Right.
So
all right.
I really don't. I mean, I love to spend time with my family. Our daughter's married and in the military, but we can Zoom and all that kind of stuff, and we do. Yeah. And I love to read. I'm a voracious reader. I love to read about other people. I love biographies. Why did you do what you do? What were you thinking when you made that decision? I love trying to get inside people's heads. And that for me is, every night before I go to bed, I spend a great deal of time reading. So I love it.
Amazing. again, pizza is maybe not cancer specific. Do you eat pizza?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a nut when it comes to, well, I might be a nut, but I mean, I'm not, yeah. Do I have a pizza from time to time? Yes. I mean, do I,
So pineapple or no pineapple? That's really the question I'm driving at. I don't care about cancer and pizza. I just care about pineapple.
I like pineapple on my pizza.
I might be starting a poll on this show. All right. What you mentioned books. What's the book on your shelf that you go back to regularly?
I should say it's mine, but I won't do that. It's this book. It's called Legacy by James Kerr. And it's about him embedding with the New Zealand national rugby team.
Oh, with the blacks?
They're all blacks. Yeah.
Fuck.
Which by most accounts are the most successful sports franchise in any sport of any country of all time.
Yes, sir.
And I just loved, I love the team aspect of it, and I thought back on my own life. I go into a job interview and, you better have all the questions answered that they're going to ask you. You better have researched all the people you're going to talk with. And the way the All Blacks look at it is they don't expect you as an individual to have all the answers, but what they expect you to do is work within the team framework to come up with the best answer for the group. So this is a book I read a lot. It's obviously readily at hand and things like that. So
you just reached out.
Here you go.
Oh my God.
So great book.
Damn. What's your favorite sport?
Badminton? No, not really. Honestly, baseball. I mean, I grew up playing basketball, but I love baseball. I love going to a baseball game. I love watching it on TV. It's slow. It's boring. I just love being in the bleach. I grew up in Chicago. I mean, I'm a Cubs fan and things like that. So,
Yeah, that's fair. It's a completely different aside, and I don't want this to be a political answer, but how is life in America?
Well, it's going to change on Monday.
It will. And the Monday, it'll be changed by the time this comes out. But I'm wondering about, have you traveled? Have you seen other parts of the world?
I travel in my podcast. I mean, I've been a guest on 700 podcasts all around the world. So I get the opportunity to talk to people from, England to Australia to India, Africa, wherever. And, we got a lot of problems in America. But you know what? This is still, in my opinion, the greatest country in the world, that you can do anything here. And, we hear so much, and my wife and I always have said that, we've said this for decades. Most Americans are like right here. We're in the center. We're in the middle. We want what's best for ourselves, for our families, and our communities.
Of course, yeah.
But what you see on the news every night are usually the far left and the far right. Yeah. And that's not mainstream America. And I think you saw that in the recent presidential election. I think you saw the Democrats pushing the LGBTQ and all these different things. And I think America was like, no, that's not what we want. We're going to go with this guy. And I've always said, we're the United States of America. And the best we can put up is Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That to me, and then Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. That to me was like, are you kidding me? we should be able to do a whole lot better than that.
Okay. And I go, oh man, I don't want to get political, but I'm curious, what is your ideal candidate? Who would run the country in your perfect world?
I mean, somebody who, one, felt that he or she were part of something bigger than themselves. That there was something guiding them, that there was some value, some principle, that it wasn't about them, that it was about making people in America's lives better. However you could do that, however that person, but power corrupts.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that saying's around for a long time for a reason. And it does. And it's the lesser of two evils. And it's been the lesser of two evils for decades now when we're voting for president. I want somebody to come in. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I don't care if you're straight or gay. I don't care. But I want you to care about me at least as much as you care about you.
Amazing. Non sequitur. And again, Rocky Road or mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Rocky Road's my favorite ice cream.
Fuck off, really. Come on.
No,
really?
My favorite ice cream. You can go. I've been asked that on other podcasts. You can go back and check me on that. I have definitely said Rocky Road.
Wow, that's so cool. There are people in the world, Terry, who are, I don't know, on the verge of something. I call them rebels in waiting. And it's kind of a weird concept because they're not waiting. They're either stepping into it or they're about to step into it. But they're like, ugh. What advice would you give to anyone, regardless of circumstance, and the fact that they're about to do something new they've never done before? How would you help them get there?
I guess I would say this. And I mean, and if people remember nothing else about what we talk about, remember this, because I think this is incredibly important. And I wish I would have known this when I was younger. I think it's more important who you work with and who you work for than it is the work that you do. Find people that care about you. Find people that are willing to invest in you. Find people that want to see you succeed and hitch your wagon to those people and climb your mountains together.
That's outstanding. Terry, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for the time you spent with us. Fuck. I want to have another conversation. Let's do it a year from now.
I would love to. That would be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Hey, if you're an artist, scientist, entrepreneur, or business owner who wants a smooth and proven method to find, shape, and share your story with the world, head on over to brandjitsu.com and order a copy of my book, Brand Jitsu, Move Your Brand from Meh to Memorable. I've been your host, Michael Dargie, and this has been the RebelRebel podcast. It's a podcast for creative rebels and entrepreneurs all over the world. And hey, if you're a rebel or you know a rebel, head on over to the RebelRebelPodcast.com and fill out the guest request form. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.